is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Spinauer and Theo Ash. And today we are doing another NFL position group ranking episode. We're going over our top 10 interior offensive linemen, that's guards and centers. And, you know, just like the offensive tackle episode, I feel like we're going to get a lot of criticism for this one, just because it's always tricky with the offensive linemen to have a strong consensus list. I feel like everyone's got, if you don't have someone's top offensive lineman on their team, it feels like it's very easy to be like, oh, how do you not have so-and-so? But I'm wearing my vintage Stay Hot merch today. So let's get into it. Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon?
Did we get a lot of hate for the offensive tackle episode? I didn't see it.
I don't know. No, we got more hate for the defenses episode one. The defenses one, people were like, how do you not have the Cowboys? How do you not have the Bears? How do you not?
Well, you know what it is. It's the honorable mentions. No honorable mentions. Never an honorable mention. Because then you open the door to, well, they should have been an honorable mention. And then you go on and just...
Yeah.
10.
Well, the honorable mentions have really only been, we come together with our own top 10 list, right?
That's what makes them even worse, is that they're all only in there because they're in someone's top 10. But then it's like, wow, no one had the Bears in their top 10. It's like, well, you know, they were close. I considered them. If we were expanding a list of 12, maybe we all would have had them, you know. But whatever.
No, I didn't consider the Bears.
I thought about them.
They crossed his mind.
When we do our worst 10 series after we finish all these, the Bears will be considered.
Matt, is that in the Stay Hot plans calendar?
I don't
worst 10 receivers, worst 10 offenses, worst 10 interior offensive linemen, worst 10 defensive tackles, and so on and so forth. I'm doing pretty well. Not too much to report.
I was doing a little research for this video, of course. And I'm realizing we're not going to talk about him, but he was like within consideration. And I wanted to ask you a question. Kevin Zeitler used to play for Cleveland. He got traded. Who did the Browns receive back for him in that trade? Do you remember, Blaiden?
A player that they received back?
It was a player for player. I will say this. Good player. You know the name, but this was like... Yeah.
What year was
But like I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. So
what year was
no pressure. This would have been like 2017, 2018,
exactly
2019.
Okay,
it was traded to the Giants. This is a player who saw 1 second team All-Pro in his career. However, I like it was
is it? Was it a defensive player?
It was a defensive player.
It was a defensive player.
Defensive player.
Was it?
Who did you think it was, Theo?
I thought it was Odell, but I know the defensive player too.
That's a good guess, though.
It wasn't Odell. I know it wasn't Odell. Oh my gosh, why am I like totally blanking on?
I didn't.
Browns roster.
It's Olivier Vernon.
Oh my gosh! Yes, I was like, I know it's a defensive lineman, but like,
completely forgot about this. And then he immediately like flamed out once he got to Cleveland. Of course, right? Is that how it went?
Typical, yeah.
Well, he had 9 sacks. He had 9 sacks in 2020 at 30 years old, and then was done. Yeah, but the year after, he was not that great. He couldn't stay healthy, I think, was his issue. But regardless, I thought that was interesting. I just totally forgot it.
All right. Well, there is also a little bit of news. There's Nick Chubb is now a Houston Texan, #heartbroken, and Jaire Alexander, Gonzo, on the free agent market. Who knows where he could end up? Cleveland. But yeah, Theo, how are you feeling about Jaire being a free agent? Was that a shocking let go for you?
Definitely not shocking. It's honestly a little shocking he stayed on the team as long as he did. I wish they could have worked something out and restructured the deal. It kind of looked like that was the direction things were headed in. Like, man, they never traded him. The draft came and went. Like, he's still on the team. Like, are they going to come to some sort of agreement? But no. They tried to chop off the second year of his remaining contract and make it an incentive-laden one-year thing so he could hit free agency on a bit of a higher note. I felt like that made some sense for both sides, but I guess Jaire thinks that he can get a good amount of money right now. So he turned down the restructure. And yeah, he's now a free agent. And I think he's still a damn good corner when he's healthy in a zone-heavy scheme. He'll show up in places you don't expect, be a ball hawk. He's still got the click and close ability. He's just 28 years old. So I think somebody, if they get more than 7 games of him, which hasn't happened in 3 seasons yet, they'd be getting a good corner. I mean, there are worse ideas to shut down an elite receiver than sticking Jaire on him. So it's bittersweet, certainly. I think it was the right move not to pay him what he was owed, considering his availability.
Oh.
But at the same time, you know, he was a very good player and one of my favorite defensive Packers ever.
Wow. In the Stay Hot group chat, if you want to join it, stayhot.chat, Theo, you said that you thought he would end up being a Viking.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to get a 1-year deal, and they're kind of tied up against the cap for 2025. So that's the one thing standing in the way. But I mean, we talked about their corner room in the defense episode. They could really use they could take a shot on a guy like Alexander, and it would make a lot of sense. And I feel like he could eat in that Flores system. Same thing with the Dolphins, but maybe a team like the Raiders who have a bunch of remaining cap left, so they don't have to finagle anything to get the contract done. Makes more sense. But yeah, like I said, bittersweet. I do like the Packers corner room. They got along fine without him last year for the most part. It'll be Nate Hobbs and Keyshawn Nixon out there. 2 nickel guys who will now be out on the boundary, but when it is a nickel package, they'll probably put Hobbs in the slot and put Carrington Valentine on the outside. And if anybody gets hurt, Javon Bullard can come in and play the nickel, and they can mix and match that way. Now, if Bullard gets hurt along with somebody else, or if there are 2 injuries, it's Bo Melton time playing corner. Yeah. All right, the depth is not good, and that's scary to me. But I think the starters will be okay.
Yeah. With that being said, should we get into our top 10 interior offensive linemen?
Let's do it.
We'll start off with the honorable mentions as we always do, Matt, even though you hate them. Our first honorable mention is actually my own, and I was a little disappointed that no one else put Zach Frazier on the list of Pittsburgh Steelers. I have been, and this will kind of kickstart the whole center conversation that I want to have, which is that centers do not get enough love as far as pay for the responsibility that they have. And my general thought, and when I was building out my top 10 list, is like, if I have 2 offensive linemen or 3 offensive linemen that I think are pretty similar in terms of like caliber of player, and one's a center and one's a guard, I'm just going to rank the center higher because they have more responsibility, especially if they're playing with a young quarterback. And like automatically going from snapping the ball to then have like what you've talked about with Ragnow, Theo, and like how he takes so much pressure off of how he used to take so much pressure off guards. Like for it to be just like so normalized that centers are the position to get kind of slashed in the pay department, it just doesn't make any sense to me. They are arguably the most valuable offensive lineman. It's like if pressure comes from the interior, like the play's broken. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. So, but Frazier in general was awesome and just a super reliable piece for the Steelers last year, I thought.
Yeah, that's a really valid honorable mention. Frazier had a great rookie season. He's got that ideal interior alignment build, kind of short and squatty, while also being able to fly off the ball. He gets under pads. He can seal guys off. He can brawl with his hands. He's a very good shot. I should have thought more about him.
disappointing.
Yeah,
Matt,
I was impressed by.
Oh,
I was just I was impressed by like his power and his ability to felt very, I don't know, very ready from like week one.
yeah.
I thought you were gonna. I don't know. I was thinking like as you were like, what?
No. What did you think I was? Did you think I was going to say Ethan Pochik?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say the next honorable mention was your guy Trey Smith.
Yeah, I'm surprised neither of you guys had him. I understand that not even necessarily the best interior offensive lineman on his line, and maybe I'm overrating him a little bit because he's playing with two guys who I actually have ranked above him. But I think overall, like, he's a total mauler and a difference maker. When you talk about like how did the Chiefs possibly get this thing done, you know, it's easy to just say, and we'll get it done in the sense make the Super Bowl. It's easy to say like, well, Mahomes is just Mahomes. And on some level, like that's true, but the passing offense was like not crazy efficient for the Chiefs all of the time. It was a lot of the run game being so consistent. I think that comes down to all three of those guys. And I think a lot of it is Trey Smith, who is one of the best movers in all of the NFL. I understand that age plays part of it, but it's no shock to me that the Chiefs are going to keep Smith instead of Thuney. So I thought that I would put him for what he does for the interior of that run game. I thought he was top 10.
Nice. And then the last honorable mention is both Matt and I had Landon Dickerson on, kind of slotted in right at that 10 spot. So yeah, I mean, just it again, it's always tricky with the interior guys because you gotta think about guards and centers. And I'll say one guy that I thought about putting on my list that I didn't, and Theo, I thought you would, is Froholt. So it's always tricky with the offensive linemen. So if there's a guy on here that you're like, oh, how is he not even an honorable mention? It's not our fault, man. There's just two.
Well, there's three positions.
There's three positions that we're taking into account.
That we're taking into account here. So there's going to be more snubs.
There are. But getting into the full top 10, this is the only time I will talk about the Browns this episode, ideally. And it's because I put Joel Bitonio on my list, and he did end up making the cut. Really one of the only bright spots on the Cleveland Browns offense, not even just on the offensive line, on the offense altogether. And I think he's gotten to a point where he's a little bit underrated simply because when you look at, like, obviously the quarterback situation, you have guys who are just horrible at managing pockets, like even under healthy pockets, you guys like Watson and Dorian Thompson-Robinson kind of create their own mess, create their own problems, and that reflects poorly on the offensive line in some capacity. And then when the run game even isn't really popping off, and a lot of that is due to not being able to hit the right hole or not being able to drive with power, like the lack of Nick Chubb, I think, in part exposed some of the holes along the offensive line, but also just made the good run blocking that was standing out look a little bit worse. And when you have as many other problems along the offensive line that Cleveland had, it kind of made Bitonio's job harder and also made him, I think, look worse kind of artificially. But he's been reliable and consistent for as long as I can remember in Cleveland. And he probably was going to retire this offseason, but it looks like he's going to come back for a little while longer, maybe even only 1 year, but I thought he deserved a spot here. I put him at like 7, so he slides in right at our 10 spot.
Yeah, I don't think it's a crazy shot at all. I considered him as well. I know his pressure numbers weren't like super crazy good from last year, but I think that quarterback play and probably just like number of passing attempts affected that a little bit. Sometimes I feel like the raw numbers get posted online, and like, I mean, obviously if a dude lets up like 0 pressures or whatever in a game and you're hyping him up, that's cool. But it is tough to compare because not only time to throw is a big deal, but just like the number of passing attempts from like one player to another is crazy different. So I don't think that's a bad shout at all.
And you know what? I was a little surprised to see both Matt and Theo, you put Erik McCoy on your list just because he didn't play a lot last year.
I think we can look past 1 year. It'd be one thing if it was like, I mean, how many games has he missed in the last 3? He played like full seasons recently, right? This isn't a guy who can't stay on the field at all, because then I would ding him for it.
In 2023, he played 17 games and was a Pro Bowler. That's the only time he's played 17 games, though. But he has played double-digit games every year except for last year.
Okay.
You can ding him for the injury, but when he's healthy, he's a pretty elite center.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good. I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, he just like to play so little of last year. I think it was like 250 snaps or something. It was just difficult for me to have him on because of that. But no, he's fantastic.
He's one of the fastest offensive linemen in the league. He can really get up on you at the second level in a hurry. And he's also pretty big, like over 300 pounds doing that. He can reach you, he can hook you, and he was a big part of the reason why the Saints were on such a tear at the beginning of last season, right? They brought in Clint Kubiak. They were running wide zone and play actioning it off of it. And McCoy was just perfect for it, right? And I thought he was about to make all pro before he got hurt, right? But then he and everybody else on the Saints offense got injured and then they fell off.
There's a certain type of player you need for the wide zone stuff. I mean, obviously it's like you just got to be able to get out on some level. But I kind of view McCoy, there's a few guys who it's like, you're like, well, maybe if they weren't in this certain system, they need to be like where the fit is right, which there's nothing wrong with, right? But McCoy, I actually kind of think would just be successful with whatever you're doing, because I think his overall just like straight up power is pretty great too. But yeah, the Saints offense just doesn't work without him, and we saw that last year.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really, with Ragnow gone, McCoy has a chance to establish himself as the all-pro center. Obviously, that's going to be like a big war or thing to watch this year.
I don't know. That's going to be a tough battle. There's a lot of good centers. Guys. There's a lot of guys who could be competing for that claim. At number 8, we have Tyler Smith for the Dallas Cowboys, who I think is the first guy that we all did I leave Tyler Smith off my list?
I believe that you did. Tyler Smith is one of my favorites. He might be my straight up favorite.
Yeah, that's a mistake on my part, dude.
I think I like Smith because when he strikes, you can really see it. He really jolts the other player. I think he's got one of the most powerful punches, and he also works with independent hands, which, considering that like he was more of like a raw prospect coming out of the draft, is super impressive to see. And in pass pro, like, he not only has a really good anchor, but he's very, very fluid. And I don't know how much he weighs, but he seems like he's one of the bigger guys on this list. Maybe it's a little bit different comparing him to like centers or whatever. But overall, like, they've even, I think, tested him out at tackle before. So he's a pretty special athlete. I think he's kind of unique with some of his abilities. I think he's got the potential to be really, really high any given season if he like was making all pros. Obviously, if we have him at 8, that's really not that big of a stretch, but I'm really
too
high
low
on him.
8's too low, I think. He could be number.
That's my fault.
He could be number 1, to be honest with you. I mean, he's just the biggest, baddest guard out there, and I think he's capable of doing the most damage to opposing defensive linemen. Like, he's just so strong. He can contort his body and kind of disconnect and twist to get in like really advantageous positions, even when kind of the angle is weird. He can sustain solo pass blocks for such a long time. He just gets like kind of lower and lower and sets his anchor more and more with each like kind of hop back. He gets wider, right? He's a total monster. He has a rep against Cam Hayward. I think it was a rep where they gave up a sack. And the left tackle situation, like next to him, was just abysmal, right? Like, Guyton is getting torched, and and Smith is over here like throwing Cam Hayward to the ground or something like that. And it's like, holy cow, he might be the not his fault lineman.
He threw Jalen Carter to the ground in a game against Philly. So yeah, as far as power goes, hard to argue. There's many guys, if anyone, higher than him. Yeah. Sorry, Cowboys fans. I don't know what came over me to not put him on my list. So
he didn't rank very well in like a lot of statistics. So I can understand like if you're trying to figure out what your watch list is, like maybe he doesn't show up if you sort by like who gave up the least sacks or, you know.
Yeah, I'm just
because I
think PFF had him with 22 pressures and 2 sacks. I have their numbers written down for everybody I considered in front of me. I don't think that's pretty average for the guys that I was looking at on this list.
All right.
And I think the sack numbers as a whole are like very luck dependent. None of these guys let up more than like 5, and there's some dudes where they let up like in the teens, and then they have certain quarterbacks who have certain strengths and weaknesses who maybe lead to getting sacked more. Like Tyler Linderbaum, you know, didn't let up any sacks. Little bit easier when it's Lamar Jackson back there instead of some other fellas.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he's in the same category as guys like Ragnow, Froholt, Tippmann, Ted Karras. So it's like it's not like he was down there with like the he wasn't in the pits of it, you know. But at number 7, Theo, I'll let you take the reins here. Elgton Jenkins.
How's he at number 7?
You had it too.
You had him at 2.
Yeah.
I had him at 8. Matt didn't have him at all. So
the nice thing about Jenkins is he just doesn't lose. I feel like he just is like I watched a cut up of all like the Packers sacks and all their run stuff, which you can do on NFL Pro. And it's just never on Jenkins. Like he's just Mr. Consistent. Even when he was up against like Aaron Donald in the playoffs a few years ago, he had a great game against Aaron Donald. Like he can handle a lot. He can handle a lot. It's very tough to ever get past him. His head is always on a swivel. He picks up stunts. He's very measured getting to the second level. He's never going too fast and overextending himself. And maybe that doesn't result in like the highlight cutoffs or pancakes like you get with a Chris Lindstrom or a Tyler Smith perhaps. But in terms of making good contact and giving your running back a crease, I think Jenkins does it as well as anybody on a consistent basis. I'm super excited for him to play center. I'm terrified that he's sitting out practice because I think that he's the most valuable Packer that there is. Like I'd almost rather Jordan Love miss the season and roll with Malik Willis than have Jenkins get hurt and have that missing from our line. He played center against the Lions last season, and it was great. It was fantastic. He locked up DJ Reader in the reps. He locked up Aleem McNeil. He gave tons of help to both guards. There was a play where he was responsible for the defensive tackle and the linebacker by himself. Like he got no help on either of those two. And his sense of timing is so good that he just kind of knew when to let the D tackle go. D tackle was unblocked, but Jenkins impacted him enough that like Jacobs was able to run by him and give him just a little bit of a stiff arm right. And then Jenkins was on to that second level. And it's like, man, I don't know if I've ever seen that before, a center taking on, like maybe that was a busted assignment or something. Like why would one guy be responsible for two? But he actually did a pretty good job and they were able to get a positive run. And that's the thing that stands out to me about Jenkins is like that sense of just like timing on when to climb and what he can get away with and all these little things.
It's the same in pass protection for a lot of these guys too, when they know like where the help is and when they can peel off and like twist around to get somebody else who's either blitzing or is like one or just like needs chip help. I thought Landon Dickerson, who was at 10 on my list, I thought he was very good at that. And Thuney, who we'll get to at some point, I also think is very good at that. Obviously is like maybe the oldest guy on our list, and a dude who was like first team All-Pro. So yeah. I feel you. I guess I guess it's not completely unreasonable to have him, you know, very, very high. He's clearly very important to the Packers. And even when things were like wonky with Jordan Love for a lot of the season and it was Malik Willis time, like things kept running smoothly. And, you know, LaFleur gets a lot of credit for that, but it doesn't work if the offensive line doesn't have anybody who can go out there and make plays, even with Josh Jacobs being a really good back. So I can see the vision on it.
Do you what contract is Elgton Jenkins looking for?
He's just upset because he's gotten moved to center and the pay scale there is lower and his contract is almost up. And I just think he wants to be paid more highly now.
Well, this is his opportunity to change the pay scale of centers.
Yeah, and he should. They should pay him whatever he wants because
he's the highest paid center in the league.
It's got to be Creed. But Jenkins has just got to learn to snap. That's my thing. In that Lions game, he was balling out, right, with the blocks. But that process of snapping and then getting into his block was sometimes inaccurate. So he's got to practice, man. Pay him so he can play center at an elite level with accurate snaps because that's one thing that could kind of derail the incoming All-Pro center season from Jenkins. Get this man his money immediately.
And get him his money immediately and then teach him how to snap.
A small little thing if you're a center snapping.
Yeah, I mean, the highest paid guard in the NFL is Lindstrom, making $102 million over, 5 years. The highest paid center is Creed Humphrey, making $72 million. And I think that's over 5 or 6 years.
I don't know if I necessarily agree that being a center is straight up harder than being a guard. But I will say, like, centers do have it almost running back level tough. I mean, Linderbaum didn't even get his 5th-year option picked up. And he's like, you know, a first-team All-Pro caliber type of guy. Because it's just like it doesn't make sense from a pay scale standpoint.
Well, and I feel like the number of teams where I'm like, oh, yeah, dude, they have a rock star at center is like very few. Right? Like, I feel like teams would want to keep a good center around because they're almost so hard to find.
I think the reason is they just don't get rushed straight on. So in pass protection, they're usually working with some kind of help. Like, it's pretty rare that there's like head up nose or anything like that, like bull rushing them. Maybe guards have to deal with a little bit more like island work, and so they get
you
paid
have to deal with guys who are a little bit more pass, you know, orient or pass rush oriented, right? Like, yeah, pressure up the middle is worse, but
how many noses are like
doesn't like, you know, like Myles Garrett's an edge, TJ Watt's an edge, Micah Parsons is an edge.
Myles Garrett decimated the Cincinnati Bengals by rushing the A.
That's true. They are moving those edges.
That's true, but in general, where are the best pass rushers? They're on the edge.
Coming off the edge.
Yeah. So it's a little different.
Yeah, and guards have to see those edge rushers more on stunts and things like that. But, you know, centers, they got to call out the protection, and ultimately they're the ones setting the depth of the pocket. I remember watching a Manning cast, and Belichick said that center was the second most important position on the offense.
Well,
don't know if he knows ball anymore.
97-year-old Bill Belichick.
That's what he said.
It's, you know, great coach. I don't know if I trust his offensive philosophy 100%.
Let me go check out.
I like the vision. I like the take, but like, would I rather have the best center or like Jamar Chase? I'm not really going to think about it that hard.
Okay, I mean, yeah, but that's... Well,
give me Elgton Jenkins if the Martians have the death beam.
Ragnow or Jamar Chase? Ragnow comes out of retirement.
I'm taking Chase. And I'm sleeping incredibly. I'm falling asleep instantly.
You're falling asleep instantly. I'm gonna have to go back to the OSU library and check out the Bill Walsh finding the winning edge and see what he says about center value.
He says that they don't need to be very good pass protectors because they always get help from their guards. That's what it says.
So over.
That's tough.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have Justin Jefferson than Creed Humphrey, but that doesn't mean Creed deserves to make so much less than the guards. I agree, Blaiden, that they're a little underpaid, and Elgton Jenkins should change the stigma.
Yeah.
Or the Packers should change the stigma for Elgton Jenkins. The Packers
should change it. And then after that, Linderbaum is really going to change it. And we'll talk about.
I can't believe, I didn't know they didn't pick up his 5th-year option.
No, it's like, it's complete.
You didn't know that? It's totally crazy, dude. Linderbaum did not get his 5th-year option picked up because, like, it would make him the highest paid center in the league or whatever. It's totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
That stuff is stupid. Like, if the 5th-year option makes you the highest paid center in football, stupid.
Yeah, like, it shouldn't be
drafted that high. He was like, what, the 11th or like the 19th?
I thought he was like the 23rd pick.
He's like the 23rd pick, and the 5th-year option is that I mean, I'd get it if like, okay, maybe if he was like the 3rd pick for like whatever reasons, like, all right, that's pretty high, but I don't know. That is crazy.
Centers should go on strike. That's what we've learned from this. Centers should unionize, and well, the players are unionized already in some form. So they just need to fix center pay. That's what we're gaining from this. But coming in at number 6 is the highest paid guard in football, Chris Lindstrom.
Lindstrom's interesting because I know like his pass protection isn't perfect. I think he's among the highest in terms of like pressures that we've got on our list. And if you go down to guys considered, like, that remains true, but he is a pretty special weapon in the run game, right? His ability to like reach and seal off guys is up there with only a couple of dudes.
It's right? The best. I think it's the best. Right. He's got such clear, defined strengths, but also he's limited in certain ways. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, and you know, there's a couple of different. All of these guys are powerful. You can just sit here and be like, this guy is strong. This guy is strong. But some of them, like, I feel like get to it in a little bit different way. Like Smith, I think is Tyler Smith. It's like his punch is really strong. A couple of these other guys, they're more like wrestlers, right? Where they'll like twist and throw people to the ground. With Lindstrom, I'm not saying like he can't do either of those two things, but I feel like a lot of his strength sometimes comes like almost like a pass rusher converting speed to power, in the sense where he'll just like run into someone at such great velocity because his acceleration is just like doesn't make any sense for somebody his size, and he'll like completely take them out of the play. So you get why, you know, he was first team All-Pro last year, right?
Yeah.
You get why he's like that, because not only does he have like these special abilities that make him different from a lot of other guards, but it really helps, like, if you want to go wide and do certain types of runs. It's super important to be exactly like that. So he's really great.
Yeah, he's the reason why the Atlanta scheme will never change, right? They went from Arthur Smith to Zach Robinson, and they still ran exclusively wide zone because they have Chris Lindstrom. I mean, he is like an Olympic sprinter as an offensive lineman. It's crazy. And he runs to the linebackers and chops them down at their knees, and there's just nothing you can do. It's just absolute destruction. His reach blocks are absolutely ridiculous. It's those highlight plays are why he gets first team All-Pros. But I also think he gets a little bit overrated sometimes based on the highlights when he's the first team All-Pro guard. And, you know, PFF always has him as like the number 1 interior lineman. I don't agree with that, because when it's something, when he's covered by a defensive lineman and he has to like remove them from the line of scrimmage or toward that, like, he loses in those situations a lot. Or if he's getting bull rushed, there's just not much he can do sometimes. So even though he's got this crazy strength, I actually think his teammate Matthew Bergeron's a little bit more of a well-rounded guard overall. He's the Falcons' left guard. I actually put him on my list, Blaiden. I don't think he's going to show up.
Oh yeah, you did put him on your list, and he should have been one of our honorable mentions.
Should have been he should have been an honorable mention.
He should have been. I prefer Bergeron a little bit. I'm a big Bergeron head. I think he's someone who's got
right.
a lot of reaching ability too, and a little bit more.
You left him off the list entirely. I can get being a little lower on him.
No, Lindstrom was his number.
Lindstrom was number 10 for me.
Okay.
I think this is the best guard duo in the league. I put them both top 10, but I think Bergeron's even.
He was a borderline honorable mention.
These honorable mentions make sense because we all listed them. It's not like we're conjuring them.
No, I know. I know.
No, but I mean, you guys do have a point with like the pass protection in some capacity. There's a play against the Eagles where I think it's Milton Williams just absolutely kind of just swims past Lindstrom in a way that I'm just like, a top guard should not be losing that badly through the A gap. So there's definitely some criticism to be had there. But I think as far as the strength, because Matt, I really like, I think we talked about it during the draft too, just kind of like the different types of strength that show up. You've got like the pure pop, that initial punch. You've got some sustaining strength, and finding guys that they're just they're useful in different ways, but both strong, of course.
If someone's far away from Lindstrom and he's got all that speed and he transfers that right to your chest, you're going to move. But if you're a little bit closer to him and he doesn't have that time to build up the speed, then the strength is going to be not the same. But he's still a beast. I absolutely love to watch Chris Lindstrom for 3/4 of the reps of the game.
Hey, we need offensive lineman highlights still. It's good to make sure someone has to do it. Someone has to keep offensive linemen in the heads of the mainstream media. So it's good to have a guy like Chris Lindstrom, or I'm blanking on Penei Sewell over in Detroit to make those highlight plays for us. But before we get into our top 5, I want to remind everyone to go and join the Stay Hot group chat, as Theo is going to take a quick breather here. Make sure you join the Stay Hot group chat. We just hit 400 members today with Chat BCC. So make sure you join there to get a chance at the Carolina Panthers Garden Gnome. And like we mentioned on the last episode, if we do somehow hit 1 million in that chat, someone will win Cooper DeJean. But we're in there all the time talking ball, talking non-ball stuff. We've got the NBA Finals, Game 3 coming on tonight. Well, it'll be tonight as we're recording this. So if you haven't already joined, you might miss that conversation. But I'm sure you'll be there for Game 4, and it'll be an absolute blast. And then, of course, as we get closer and closer to the NFL season, we'll be talking more and more ball as well in that group chat. So make sure you join over at stayhot.chat. We'll be there every day talking all things football, basketball, and otherwise. Stayhot.chat with Chat BCC. Let's get into the top 5 of our interior offensive linemen, starting with Quenton Nelson. Hallelujah. He had to be on this list somewhere.
He's bordering on being a Hall of Famer with his resume, just in terms of accolades. I don't know. I was trying to figure out what specifically separates him. I mean, he's so naturally strong up through his base, but he's still somebody you want to get out moving. But it's almost like the other way around, where it's Lindstrom can move and that generates power, whereas Nelson is a power guy who can kind of move, I guess is how I view it. He's very high IQ and pass pro. He's also somebody who I think is just so experienced and knows when to disconnect. And when he's giving chip help, he's also he gets movement very, very easily, and I think that helps him a lot. So there's just a lot I like about his game. And he's been very consistent. I know he kind of had a dip in the middle of his career for a moment, but I think he's starting to trend back towards the right direction.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out the most to me about him is his pulling. When you get him on the move, either out in space around the perimeter or just to kick out the end closer to the line of scrimmage, He always makes such good contact. He always hits his mark. Jonathan Taylor hits so many big runs, running up the right sideline with the left guard Nelson pulling out in front of him and clearing out that corner. He must have had like 3 20-plus yard runs at least on a play like that, specifically designed to get Quenton Nelson in space. And he's got great redirection ability for such a big guy and a strong guy. My only issue with him and something that's made him inconsistent over the years is he just has chronically wide hands that kind of give up his chest, and he can get beat that way more frequently than you'd like to see. But you'll take some of the lows with the highs he's able to give you. His game against Miami this season was one of the best offensive lineman games I've ever seen.
I remember you posting that, Theo, on Twitter. There's like just a Quenton Nelson cut up against Miami.
Yeah, if anybody wants to realize why he's top 5, just go watch, search Theo Ash NFL, Quenton Nelson, and then maybe the word God. I think I invoked that name when I posted this. No, I didn't. I just did a 1 minute of Quenton Nelson versus Miami. Go watch that cut up. It's money.
There you go. I retweeting it right now with the Stay Hot Twitter, just to make it easier for people to find. But yeah, he's an absolute beast. I love that you mentioned the pulling ability. That's always the first thing that I notice is he might be the best pulling guard in the sport. Just the way that he's able to like make contact with guys. You talk about like, oh, when Lindstrom is on the move and he hits your chest, like you're moving out of the way. It's not even that when he hits you, you move out of the way. It's when he hits you, you are getting leveled. Like he is just straight up a bully. Like there are very few guys on the defensive side that can really sustain like engaging a block with an on the move Quenton Nelson. So
yeah, it's hard to hit those cornerbacks, man. He does it, and he just needs to clip them, and they just go flying.
And even linebackers too, man. He lays those guys out like every time. I feel like anytime he's pulling, I just feel like he just levels somebody. But at number 4, we have the new Chicago Bears addition, Joe Thuney. We talked about this in when it happened as potentially one of the biggest moves of the offseason, one of the biggest acquisitions of the offseason. Here he sits at number 4 on our top 10 interior offensive lineman list.
Yeah, just such a technically proficient pass protector is what you get from him. I think his hand placement on punches is something that if I was coaching offensive linemen, I'd show them Joe Thuney. It's kind of the same technique that I always heard Joe Thomas talk about, where you kind of want to get one hand on the shoulder pad and one on the opposite pec. So it's a bit of a diagonal thing that closes off any kind of inside move, right? Yep. Thuney's got that same consistent placement right in those 2 spots. And if they break his arms off of their chest, he'll just like reset them in the exact same spot. Like it's just this constant cycle where he's looping his hands, and he keeps getting them in those spots and locking guys down.
And he moves really well in pass protection, too. It's not just the hands, but it's the feet as well. I mean, he kicked out to tackle. Obviously, like, he was proficient enough at tackle, whereas it could have been a disaster for the Chiefs, but, like, he's an interior offensive lineman. But the fact that he was even able to hold up out there when there's plenty of dudes who just, like, wouldn't at all, I think speaks a lot to just the mover he is, even at this age.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Absolute beast. Should be really good for the Chicago Bears and for Caleb Williams. Do you have any concerns with? We talked about. Sorry, I'm getting choked up now this episode. We talked about offensive lines and how like if a quarterback is bad at managing even a healthy pocket, it can make offensive linemen look bad. Do you have any concerns with that for Caleb Williams, seeing as how many?
Well, I mean, if that was the case, would it be Thuney being bad, or would it be?
Yeah, but like, do you think that'll be an issue where, like, maybe people blame Thuney, and but it's just more on Caleb.
No, I think if Thuney is so much more established than Caleb.
Yeah, but people love to cope with their quarterbacks, you know.
They do, but Thuney is just too good and has been too good for too long. And then, I mean, no disrespect, Bears fans. I like the offseason. I like the team. I think the offense will be good. There's also probably some coping with the Ryan Poles moves that would have to go on. So there would be multiple forces clashing there, you see.
True.
Where it's obviously the Thuney move was bad. The laser eyes on Ryan Pole would have to be unedited, and that can't be done. So it's hard to know how that clash would go. But
I mean, obviously, I'm concerned about Caleb like holding the ball too long and running around and not hitting the check down when he needs to. But with the Bears' offensive line, I'm more concerned about how the run game fits together. I mean, you've got Drew Dahlman coming from Atlanta. He's from that wide zone type of system. Thuney coming from Kansas City is more gap scheme, pulling down blocks, things like that. The thing I'm concerned about with Thuney in this offensive line is, are they going to be able to build a coherent run game out of the kind of random pieces that they have from different places now? Especially
with DeAndre Swift,
especially with the running back room that they have, right? So I'm more concerned about the run blocking than the pass protection. Do
you know who they're listed on ESPN as the number 4 back?
Their number 4 back. Well, it's the Rutgers guy, and then it's the Texas guy, and then it's Swift. I don't know who the number 4 back is.
It's Travis Homer. Shout out Seahawks legend Travis Homer.
Oh, right. From the Twitter wars about if he was a good blocker or not. Well,
he was really efficient that one year. And then he just like never saw the field again, I feel like.
Well, thanks for that trivia.
Yeah. Maybe he'll get another shot here.
This is exactly who I'd expect a 4th string running back to be.
Travis Homer. But getting into the top 3 here of our interior offensive lineman ranking. At number 3, we've got Theo's guy, the guy he called many, many years ago, Quinn Meinerz.
Quinn Meinerz, awesome guy, white dude with dreads from Wisconsin Whitewater. Doesn't get much better than this.
Quinn Meinerz haircut, does that move him
up or down
significantly? It's just like now he's just sort of got like a short sort of standard white guy haircut. I don't know.
Cammy saw him.
His hairline is rough, man.
Cammy saw him at her job. He came in and she's like, "There's some like huge dude here with like planet Earth tattoos, like space tattoos and honeycomb tattoos, and he's like huge." And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's Quinn Meinerz." And Quinn Meinerz is an absolute brawler. Like,
yeah,
he is such a people mover. He's the shortest and the squattiest offensive lineman that I think you could build.
He gets lower than everybody else and then just plays up in a way that nobody can compete. He's got to be like the lowest offensive lineman, unless that Willie Lampkin guy ends up making a roster and it doesn't have to turn into a fullback, in which case it's him. But Meinerz is ridiculous with that. You notice it instantly.
Yeah, he's like playing down at like your pecs and stomach, and you can't really get into his frame because he's got that natural low pad, and then he's pushing on you and you can't push back, and you're getting moved. And yeah, he's just very consistent when it comes to forklifting guys, displacing them at the line of scrimmage, and then hitting those linebackers. He can do it over and over and over again. And it also helps him in pass protection, where he's just kind of this natural buttress that you can't really do much about. And he's got quick hands and quick feet like all the other guys on this list. And he's a huge part of the reason why they were the number 1 run win rate team and the number 1 pass win rate team, according to ESPN's tracking. Now, I don't love the shoulder chips and like tracking exactly when they like move past each other and what constitutes a win, right? Like, is it really a win if your shoulder pads are past a guy? I think there's a lot more body positioning that goes into it. But when you're number one in both categories and Nick's only took a small handful of sacks, it certainly means something, right? This is a great offensive line, and Meinerz is the crown jewel.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially about him being low, about his drive. He kind of does like I'm not even trying to call him out, but he kind of does like the Trevor Penning sort of like crazy offensive lineman, like fits that sort of like personality mold, but like it works for him. He really does it. He really fulfills on that.
Yeah.
As just like a finisher in the run game, you know, where I guess a lot of his like big finishes, because he really likes to, you know, play until the whistle goes. But there's a lot of times where I'm like, that actually made a difference. That wasn't, you know, that wasn't just doing it for the sake of doing it.
It's all feel, right? Like you can really try to get the pancake and end up just overextending yourself and falling on your face, right? Meinerz isn't really ever going that fast unless he really feels like, oh, I'm in an advantageous position. Like now I can really turn it up a notch, and then the finish comes, right? But before that moment comes, he's very careful, I think, to not get in positions where he can be beaten. Like it's pretty slow with him, actually. His whole process of making sure the defensive tackle is really contained before climbing. And I think that slow pace it helps every single offensive football player. I think it helps the receivers when you're not going a million miles an hour, the running backs and the linemen, right? It's not about going as fast as you can. And yeah, Meinerz is nasty. He's looking to do it, but he's not looking to just do that. He wants to win ethically first, and then if there's still time, he'll lay the wood.
He's an ethical winner.
He is ethical.
Oh yeah. Well, that brings us to the top two, and obviously, with just the guys who are left, you know, it's Creed Humphrey and Tyler Linderbaum. Humphrey is the number 2 guy, and Linderbaum is the number 1. Probably the 2 best centers in football. And if we talked about McCoy could be making a run for that all-pro title now that Ragnow is retired, but those guys, Linderbaum and Humphrey, have very, very good shots to be in that category as well. Matt, I'll start with, you had Humphrey at your number 1 spot, and Linderbaum down at number 4. What about Humphrey do you prefer over Linderbaum?
I don't know. I just think Humphrey's anchor is unbelievable. He's incredibly hard to get through. Not that the numbers are everything, like we've said, but he only allowed 7 pressures all year. I think that strength translates to, like, obviously the interior run game, which the Chiefs leaned upon so heavily. I think he's got some wrestler plays out there. But then on top of that, like, him in like the screen game out in space and his ability to like go find work at the next level is really good. And that's almost an underrated part of it. It's like you can be fast enough to go and get to the second level and reach guys, but you got to have like the angle and the recognition to go do that stuff. And that's not just as hard, but it's very hard as well. You got to have both. And Humphrey's got both. So he's going to be the highest paid, or he is the highest paid center now. Linderbaum might pass him. We'll see, because he's getting the deal a little bit later. But yeah, I had him at 1.
I feel like Humphrey is more consistent and Linderbaum has the higher highs, but maybe can be guilty of the overextension I was talking about earlier in a way that you just don't really see from Creed ever. Creed is always going to do the right thing. Like, he allowed the fewest pressures of, I think, any offensive lineman, period, last year, according to Sports Info Solution. Obviously there are guys who play like no snaps and allow no pressures, but
guys who actually saw the field, nobody allowed less than 7, right?
Yeah. So He's the most, like, when it comes to setting the depth of the pocket and not letting anything through, like that's Creed Humphrey, and you're totally right about screens. He's so money on those. But I ranked Linderbaum a little higher.
Nick Gates played 96 snaps. He allowed no pressures. Chris Glaser for Chicago only played 1 snap. He allowed no pressures. Those guys.
Shout out to him.
I didn't allow any pressures. We got to consider Theo Ash NFL when we're talking about the best centers in the league.
I thought about him. He was close to honorable mention territory, believe it, but he didn't quite make that cut. Why'd you have Linderbaum at 1, though?
Just some of the plays I saw are the best center plays, you know? Like, he has a rep against the Cowboys where he takes, like, Mozzie Smith in one hand and he throws him as hard as he can. Like, he literally torques his torso and throws him, and he hits the ground. It's like, oh my God. Derrick Henry had an 81-yard run against the Buccaneers, and he had the craziest reach versus, like, Kalijah Kancey, who's a really quick defensive tackle. And he started the play in front of Linderbaum. Like, he was, I think, the 1 techniquer. He may have even been like a 2. Like, he was a good distance away from Linderbaum to begin this play. Linderbaum snaps the ball and, like, gets his helmet in front of him and, like, rips kind of his arm through. Henry turns the corner. He's off to the races. Linderbaum is, like, running behind him, like, with his arms, like, swinging wildly. I'm like, holy cow. Like, these are... I love Creed Humphrey, but it's like, I don't think he's quite capable of some of these rare blocks. And I think Linderbaum is kind of just as much a linchpin to some of the things the Ravens do, as maybe not as good as Lamar, but, like, certainly as important as probably Henry, right? So to be kind of that good and have the amount of, like, really rare reps that he did on, you know, the best rushing team in the league, I thought that he's the leader in the clubhouse to be the new, you know, best center in the league, if he wasn't already. But he did overextend himself a little bit. Maybe the consistency of Creed is still paramount. And the fact that he just doesn't allow any pressures ever is something I could have underrated, because I put Creed, I think, at 4.
Yeah, I thought the consistency in pass pro probably did it for me, because a lot of these guys have high highs, and there's a lot of dudes who are like, most of these guys all can kind of get out in space a little bit. Not to say that Linderbaum isn't also great. I think he actually was a wrestler. I just looked it up, and you can tell on tape, like, it really does translate, at least, like, stylistically, with that twisting. I feel like he does that as much as basically anybody else. But yeah, I've got Humphrey, but I don't think Linderbaum's a crazy pick or anything.
No, I had this exact top 3 of Linderbaum, Humphrey, Meinerz. So I am the consensus list. Okay, just so everyone knows.
Sorry, Tyler Smith.
No, but sorry, Tyler Smith. Now I'm with you on the like super high highs of Linderbaum, Theo. Just he almost has the hips of a cornerback in terms of, like, his ability to kind of redirect himself to latch on to defenders in the run game or in pass protection. He's just such a freak athlete. And even if he doesn't have the pass pro consistency of Humphrey, I just think he's just such a menace to deal with. It's almost annoying. I could imagine as a defensive lineman, like, how in the world are you supposed to get past this guy unless he makes a mistake? Because he's just that high level of an athlete.
I got that ball don't stop mentality with Tyler Linderbaum. He's a hooper. Creed Humphrey's a basketball player.
He is a hooper. Yes,
he is. But yeah, Creed and Jenkins kind of remind me of each other, where it's like there's just never gonna be a mistake, like, ever. With Meinerz and Linderbaum, maybe there's a few sprinkled in here and there, but also kind of their high-end reps, you're like, holy cow, like, put this, clip that, put it on the news.
Kind of a Chris Paul versus Carmelo Anthony type of comparison. If I'm thinking from a ball don't stop. I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, what the equivalent to the game is about a bucket would be for centers. But
it's definitely like just who can hit the craziest reach block, which I think Linderbaum
right, that's what
has.
the game. But I was going to say the game is about a reach block, but like that
doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
No,
the game is about a
doesn't.
reach. The game is about a cutoff. I don't know.
All I'm saying, if I were Baltimore or if I were Green Bay, I would be like trying my absolute hardest to give like an $80 or $85 million deal to one of these guys, because if you don't, whoever is second is going to be giving the other guy a $100 million contract. I feel like if Elgton Jenkins gets a deal done with Green Bay and it's like $85 million, Linderbaum's going to be like, dude, I need 100. Like, there's no way you're not paying me more than like Elgton Jenkins and Creed Humphrey right now. So I would be scrambling to get that deal done, because if not, you're gonna be paying him a lot more.
Yeah, just pay Jenkins. I agree. Pay him.
Just pay Jenkins.
Just pay Jenkins, man. He's like I said, he's the most important player on the team. I'd say he's the most important player on the team. Jordan Love is probably as the quarterback, but maybe even not, man. Like they went 2-0 with Malik Willis. Like I don't know if they go 2-0 without. I don't know what their record is in games without Elgton Jenkins. I think he got hurt in that Eagles game, if I remember right, and they just got smoked after that.
Tough. Well, that's the top 10 list. We'll go over it one more time. Our honorable mentions were Bergeron, who we didn't mention earlier, Zach Frazier, Trey Smith, and Landon Dickerson. And then the top 10 is Joel Bitonio, Erik McCoy, Tyler Smith, Elgton Jenkins, Chris Lindstrom, Quenton Nelson, Joe Thuney, Quinn Meinerz, Creed Humphrey, and Tyler Linderbaum. But before we get out, Theo, before we started recording, you said you had a question about Nick Chubb.
Oh, yeah.
I just remembered that.
Yeah, that's the last bit of news is Nick Chubb signed with the Texans. And I was thinking about it. I've got to watch more tape with him. I know he averaged like 3.5 yards a carry or something pitiful like that. But, you know, he's a year removed from the ACL now, or whatever it was, everything in his knee. And he's going to be the backup, not really the guy in Houston. And backups always up their yards per carry a little bit just because defenses aren't as keyed into the run when they're in there. And I guess I was wondering, Blaiden, if you think that there's any chance that Chubb does have a bit of a bounce back year in Houston, or if you think his knees are just like gone and he'll be a training camp cut.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd be a training camp cut. I think he could have a bounce back. I mean, when he came back from the first knee injury in college, I mean, that's why he fell so far in the draft. Everyone was worried about if he was going to lose that explosiveness. And obviously he didn't. He came to Cleveland and was like an instant success. But to have like the same horrific knee injury, like to call it an ACL is like almost,
yeah, that's way too. It was a gruesome injury.
It's like his knee was like shredded effectively, like just so much structural damage, so much like every ligament gone for him to like, he looked completely lacking any explosiveness.
Yeah, he's turning 30. I mean, the odds here are brutal.
It's tough. And like, and the thing is, he was like lifting well, like he was pushing heavy weights, but he just clearly didn't have the same like explosive cuts, the tackle breaking ability that he had before. Maybe with like another off season to get right, like it could be a little bit better, but to expect him to get back to where he was at his peak in Cleveland, where he was like, arguably the best running back in football.
Yeah, the closest thing to Adrian Peterson that the league has seen since prime Adrian Peterson. I guess, yeah, it just was I could kind of talk myself into him being like a reasonable backup, like as a backup and with another year. But I was just wondering if he looked completely cooked, because I didn't watch many Cleveland games last year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I watched all of them. And when he came back, it was just like the first game that he came back was the same game that Deshaun Watson went down. And like the Browns tried to like get him like, key rushing down moments and like give him opportunities to really break one, and he just never really could. And it was kind of like that the whole rest of the season when he got back. So it was just really, really disappointing. Obviously it was good to see him back out there, but it's just like he just clearly doesn't have the same juice that he had before. And that's kind of the like, yeah, he's going to be 30. And like, obviously we've seen Derrick Henry play with a lot of success for a long time, but Derrick Henry has also been extremely healthy. Right. And so I think the big thing it could be kind of like a Todd Gurley type of situation where you're just never really going to be the same after that. Like 2 horrific knee injuries. I don't know. It's just tough. Yeah. And then he also broke his foot. So like, yeah, it's just too many injuries, I think is going to be what it is. And then Matt, we got a finals game. It's a 1-1 series right now. How do you expect it to go? I mean, obviously you'll be having this prediction air as the game's already over, but
I think, and we did this last time with game 1 and I got it wrong, but I'm going to say Thunder again. I think the Pacers get another one, but like, I don't know how in an individual game I'm going to pick against OKC, I guess. I don't know. I just think there's just too much issue with the Pacers getting inside. They can do more to get Halliburton towards the rim and then allow him to make plays off of that. And it seemed like they kind of started to figure that out later in the game, but I just think in general, OKC is going to be able to punch back. Now, any given game, there's of course the risk that like J-Dub plays poorly, or like Chet gets a little bit too interested in trying to get inside and doesn't set himself up with the outside shots first. So he does these like, especially early last game, he does these ones where he's like clearly not going to shoot the ball, and Miles Turner just kind of never buys into it because Turner doesn't even want to like get all the way out there all of the time. And then he'll just like slam into him, or he doesn't quite have the feel yet, like, and can pick up, like he picked up a bad charge or whatever. So the second options mean that it's up and down a little bit for the Thunder offense, and the Pacers are a smart, well-coached team, but I got the Thunder still.
So you're telling me my mortgage is cooked with it being on the Pacers to win 4-1?
It's very possible.
Fair enough. Well, that'll do it for another episode of Stay Hot. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And as always, from your 3 favorite fellas here on the internet that talk about sports and sometimes other things, we will catch you on the flippity flop.